This is going to be, for me, one of the most ambitious trips I have ever undertaken. And here's why. Mainly because it's such a long one, and where I'm going to is so remote. Like some of the programs in the previous series, I am completely on my own. I have no camera crew with me. I am completely alone. Myself and my vehicle. You see? Nobody around. I'm going to take a nostalgic trip back as to why I am so blessed, so lucky to be doing this job, and it's something that I am so passionate about. It all started here, actually, in England, when I was 14. My father bought a Range Rover. I've brought my family here on an uncharacteristically bright, warm and sunny day in England, to the place that the very first time I sat in a four-wheel drive vehicle and was taken off-road. It was my father's Range Rover. He drove it up onto the field, turned it around and drove it back off again. That simple act excited me so much. The very idea that a vehicle like this could give you so much freedom. I will never forget that moment. I was completely besotted with this vehicle. You should have seen my bedroom. I had posters with Range Rovers in all positions. And it was through this Ford that he drove it, with me in the passenger seat. It was a childish fantasy that one day I should do what that vehicle was capable of. I have, of course, migrated from the Range Rover, or more accurately, perhaps the Range Rover has migrated from me. My current mount is a 2005 Toyota Land Cruiser 105 series wagon, a relatively uncomplicated and reliable vehicle, which the current Range Rover no longer is. On this journey, it's got to take me about 25,000 kilometers. It already has 130,000 kilometers on the Odo. And because I am traveling mostly on my own, at times I will be relying on it for my life. One of the reasons why I was so obsessed with this Range Rover was that 2 years earlier my dad had taken me to the Okavango. It is a place of exquisite beauty in the Kalahari, where this river, the Okavango River, spills out like a bucket of water over a kitchen floor. It spills out over this vast area of desert. And it is a pristine wonderland even today. Taken there when I was 12, I was absolutely captivated. You see, even then, I was recording things on a tape recorder. My father had a Super 8 camera, and you can hear it in my voice.
The outline of the trees, and the outline of the grass, and shining waters.
So from that point on, we went back to England, mesmerized by this idea of going back to the Okavango in a four-wheel drive on our own, which is exactly what we did. We bundled our Range Rover onto a mail ship. We came to South Africa to stay. In fact, the very first time I ever sat behind the steering wheel of a vehicle was that Range Rover in the Maremi Wildlife Reserve, which is in the Okavango. The Okavango, which is I see as the source of all this for me personally, its origins are in the highlands of Angola, and that's where I'm going to go to find the source of the Okavango. Then I'm going to follow the river all the way down until it reaches the panhandle, where it begins to slowly spread out into the Kalahari thirstland and vanishes into the desert, absorbed by the heat of the sun. I welcome you to the show. Namibia greets me on the first day of my expedition with a spectacular airborne display. The main purpose of this trip through Namibia is basically to take me from my hometown, which is Cape Town, north to Angola. It would be a complete waste of time to drive through this magnificent country and not actually spend some time on the way through. One of the things you have to put up with getting through Namibia are these interminable long stretches of hot, dry gravel where the scenery is really uninteresting, and if you suffer from agoraphobia you go absolutely mad. As for me, I absolutely love it.
There are, on these desolate, barren plains, places like this. This is solitaire. It can only be described as an oasis. This one with some rather eclectic garden furniture.
You know, my trouble is, I just can't get enough of views like this. I just can't get enough of it. While I find myself on a lonely, windswept, grassy plain in the NAMIB. Tomorrow I'll hit the coast. But right now I'm going to get a jersey on. It's a bit windy and a little bit cold. You can see if you look very carefully, there's a line below the horizon. That line is a line of fog. The NAMIB is categorized by the fog that occurs every single morning along the coastline, sometimes drifting inland, sometimes not, and it's caused by the hot, dry desert meeting the frigid Atlantic, and I'm driving towards that line of fog now. Well, I've made it to the coastline, the frigid, angry Atlantic. But you know, I've been here before, and looking at it again, I actually think this part of the coastline is actually very boring. It's very dull. Because from here, about 500 kilometers north, nothing changes. Occasionally, you do get interesting places like the one directly behind the camera.
This is Vlotskasbaken, built in the classical colonial style with large gardens and wide streets. Plenty of room for those. I don't get this place. These are obviously holiday homes boarded up against the elements, but who would want to come here on holiday? Ah, perhaps I have my answer. Some properties even have their own lighthouses, presumably to prevent them being hit by ships. And there are others wish that their house was built on another coastline altogether.
So anyway, I'm not sure if I'm going to stick to the coast for very much longer. It's called the Skeleton Coast because of the skeletons of all the shipwrecks, except those that are not under the sand are under the water, and those that are protruding from the sand, because of the climate, they deteriorate and disintegrate so rapidly, there are very, very few wrecks left.
Except for this one. It's the Zila, a trawler that went aground while being towed for scrapping, broke its line and drifted ashore. That was in August 2008. I'm surprised that during the 2 years it's been sitting here, it's still so intact.
It is stupefyingly desolate, this road. They call it the Salt Road. I'm not sure if it's because it's made of salt, or whether there are people that transport salt on it, or whether vehicles rust so quickly in this area that it's as if the road was made of salt. I'm not sure. It travels all the way up on this road without break, all the way to the Konini River. I'm not allowed to travel. You need a special permit, special permission to travel on this road right up to the border at the north. But who would want to do it anyway, because it really is monotonous. It doesn't change very much at all. And what I thought I would do now is go to a place called Cape Cross Lodge. I don't know if they've got camping. Maybe I'll stay at the lodge. I don't know. And then go for a day visit into the Skeleton Coast Park itself, and then head inland. Cape Cross in the year 6685 after the creation of the world, and 1485 after the birth of Christ, the brilliant, foresighted King John II of Portugal ordered
Diego Cao, knight of his court, to discover this land and to erect this padrille here. This is Cape Cross Seal Colony, about little less than 100 kilometers north of Swakopmund. So I said earlier that this coastline is very, very boring. If you stay on the road, it is dead boring. You've got to know where to go, you've got to actually get off the road and go and, you know, if you see a signpost, and even if it looks uninteresting, take it. And then there are places of interest. It's quite smelly. The lovely noise of the chatter and the shouting and the bickering of all the seals. They're very, very content here, very, very happy here. There are not a lot of seals on this coast, but for isolated areas like this where they're protected. When they pitch up in other parts, the fishermen tend to not like it very much, and there have been lots of reports of seal shootings and clubbings and dreadful things like that. Here they are protected. This is actually a reserve, and they're all, well, most of them are having an afternoon sleep. Which is why tonight I'm going to seek some comfort. Cape Cross Lodge is the only vaguely comfortable lodge on this coast, apart from Terrace Bay, 200 kilometers north, which I understand is really only suited to fishermen. Cape Cross, I have found, has far more appeal. Now, the best single reason for not camping on this coast is this. The wind is freezing. This is how we do these apparent high-speed shots. Firstly, we photograph the surf as it is, normal speed, and then we photograph the sun setting real quick by shooting one frame every second. The camera does that for me. And then we put the two together and it looks like this. The trouble is, of course, when the sun disappears, we still have its reflection on the sea. You know, I am so glad that I didn't camp last night. The wind howled a whole night. Would have been awful. Really, really, really glad I found myself comfort. I had a lovely dinner last night. Gee, the food was good there. Really, really good. So, heading north on the Salt Road. It's a bit like those roads in Europe where there's heavy snow, where there are those markers next to the road to indicate where the road is in the case of heavy snowfalls. It's exactly the same here. There are markers to indicate where the road runs in cases of heavy wind, where the sand, of course, obliterates the road completely. I'm now going to try, this is a bit of a long shot. In 1984, 2 years after I bought my first four-wheel drive, I came up this road and looking for a place to camp outside of the Skeleton Coast National Park, to which we're heading now. I pulled off to go and find a place to camp on the beach, and I found a wreck. Now the bits of steel, parts of a crane, a few other bits and pieces were actually left high and dry. The coast had actually receded and they were left high and dry. Now imagine if I could stumble on them again. It was not in the days of GPSs, so I didn't take a GPS fix. I just remember it was not far south of the park boundary. I'm going to go and see if I can find it. Long shot. Worth a try. Alright. I've been looking on the GPS and I found something that might be of great use to us. I have loaded into the GPS Tracks for Africa. For those of you who don't know what Tracks for Africa is, basically it's a collection of people that travel throughout Southern Africa, submit their GPS logs, track data to a website called Tracks for Africa, and they have compiled this very impressive piece of data.
about the place where I think this shipwreck may be, and I found shipwreck unknown. So I'm going to say go to shipwreck unknown. Here's hoping it's the same shipwreck. This is the wreck of the Winston. I don't think it's the wreck. Pretty sure it's not the wreck. Then again, it could be, but I remember there were lots and lots of bits of cranes. Anyway, I'll have to look at the photographs to verify it, but this is not the one on the GPS. This is another one that was actually signposted, so I thought I'd come down and take a look anyway. The other one, still got to go further north. Alright, so the GPS says we go off the road here. It's not much of a track, but it's something. There are some areas here look a bit tricky traction wise. They look a bit soft. I must just tread carefully. I'm completely on my own. This is a bad sign, you see. When tracks do this into the ground, it's a bad sign. Oh, look at that. No, this is impassable. You know, I don't remember it being this far away from the main road, but then again, my memory's not that good, best of times. And I certainly didn't have to drive over difficult ground to get here. I remember it was quite sandy, it was quite hilly, there was a ridge that I had to drive over, and it was quite soft because of the sand. This is mud. But the good news is a track. I'll just take it easy. This reminds me of driving over the salt pans. Gotta be careful, I'm all on my own here.
I can see the wreck ahead. I'm sure it's not like I remember. This one's much smaller, and besides, I remember the shoreline being quite rocky.
Well, no, it's not the place that I stayed at in 1984. It's completely different, but this is an entire boat. A small one, mind you, but this is a shipwreck.
Whenever I have done one of these solo expeditions, I find that after a few days, loneliness produces a kind of benign insanity. I never know when it's going to strike, but struck it has.
Now you're being very silly. Now stop it. I said earlier that it was boring. Take it all back. Imagine somebody being wrecked ashore here. What would they think? Oh boy, we're saved. Oh, we got to land. Oh wow. Hold on a minute. Oh, they got to get back in the boat.
The southern gate to the Skeleton Coast Park. My intention is to make a brief visit before I head east and then north again. And then a little bit east and then north a bit more, and the first thing I see are jackal footprints that lead the way to an unsightly mess of tangled steel.
This is the bird colony. I call it that because the signpost, the first word is gone, so we'll just call it the bird colony. I'm not sure why they call it the bird colony. It's not a bird for 1,000 miles. It's just a whole lot of rust, and I wonder what this place was. Maybe it was a bird colonizing factory. They brought birds in here, indoctrinated them, and let them go, and so colonizing birds. Well, you come up with a better idea. Just before leaving home on this expedition, I travelled to England. I thought it would be a good idea to spend some time with, people. I also went to prepare for my forthcoming trip to the Okavango, to Cambridge and onto the River Cam to see if I could still pole a mokoro.
And we're going to sink now, because Dad's driving.
A mokoro in Botswana is a dugout canoe, in England it's a canoe.
Or one shove and he falls in.
I have never pushed a punt before. And it's a bit like a very heavy mokoro. I'm not finding it quite as easy as I thought I would. Mainly because my family are making jokes.
The experiment was a success. I'm ready to face the Okavango. But that's another 5 weeks away.
Enormous fun.
That was so cool.
Right, this is where I'm going to leave the sea and the Skeleton Coast Park. Sea's over there. That road up there continues to a place called Terrace Bay, where there's a little lodge, and Tora Bay, and eventually Maui Bay, and eventually, in fact, then there's the road up there. You're not allowed there. You can't even get a permission to drive that road, and eventually reaches the Koneni with the border with Angola. Instead, I'm going to take what I think is going to be a far more interesting route, and that is that way, east. I'm not really sure what's ahead of me, but I'll be traveling east a bit and then north a bit on my way to the Koneni.
My trip back in 1984 also took me through this part of Damaraland, and it's here that I remember getting stuck in the sand. And it's here that, for the very first time, I learnt how to use a winch. You're not allowed to laugh. Well, you can if you like, I suppose.
This absolutely exquisite place that I find myself in. Travelling along the main road, I saw a large signboard, Khorib Lodge and Rest Camp, camping. I thought that looked good. Went in there, but disappointing. People, too many people, kids. Nice campsite, but nothing special. Then I passed the community campsite. Then I passed this. This is called Living Canyon campsite. It's beautiful, but there's nobody around to take money from me. It's obviously a community campsite, but well, I decided in fact not to camp down at the river, as nice as it was down there, because the attraction and appeal of hot water and a hot shower was a little bit stronger than the scenery. So I'm here at the community campsite where my donkey boiler has been lit. I'm going to go and have a quick shower.
Damaraland is a dry place. Rarely do any of its rivers flow. But the NAMIB is flowing quite strongly. It's such a wonderful thing to see, because only rarely do these rivers ever flow.
And it bodes very, very well for my trip to Angola, because I understand that the rivers are flowing strongly, and of course we're going to be following them upstream to find the source of the Okavango. Amazing. Hello. Well, this is where my adventure really begins, because this is where it starts getting very, very remote. I've turned off from Sesfontein, I filled up with my fuel, I'm full of water. I'm now heading along the valley of the NAMIB River, and I've been told that this is where the desert elephants live. I've never seen them before, and I'm determined to find them.
You find me in central Namibia on the first part of my expedition to find the source of the Okavango River in Angola. I'm on my way north, having travelled via the grey-green Atlantic and now through the yellow-baked NAMIB. This part of my trip I'm doing alone, without even a camera crew. In a few days' time I will meet up with a group who will take me into Angola. Meantime, here in the bed of the NAMIB River, I'm going in search of desert elephant.
Well, I've got a track to follow on the GPS where I've been told there are some desert elephants.
I'm driving through silt and the dust is choking, billowing behind the Land Cruiser. I've been told that there is a waterhole to reach before I'm likely to see any elephant. But they were wrong. Within an hour or so, I see my first desert elephant. But the joy is short-lived.
Well, the experience has been marred a bit for me because of that. I mean, there's an elephant right there, probably others that I haven't seen, but a convoy of 10 vehicles and some four-wheel drive, self-drive excursion. And I thought I would be on my own, but still I've seen the elephants. That's nice. It makes me think, you know, there are few, so very, very few really remote places left. And it's largely because of the advent of the four-wheel drive, I'm afraid, and good maps, and GPS, and of course people want to do what I do. That's why they come here. I'm not alone in more ways than one. Still, I saw my elephant. Now the question is, do I stick around? Do I stay here? I don't feel like, I mean, I was going to sort of like camp close to the elephants, and I don't know, but there's now this big group here. It looks like 10 vehicles. Don't know what I should do. The NAMIB River Valley is categorized by these magnificent anna trees. They're all cropped to a similar height. The height of how far an elephant can reach and how far a giraffe can reach. They all have another thing in common, and that is evidence of floods. But this one is the most impressive I've seen. Imagine how this river must have once been flowing.
In this river valley there is a man-made waterhole. Without it being here, it's doubtful that in most years the elephants would stick around. It also sustains a lot of other game, including lion, which have been seen in the area since the water pump was installed. As a result, of course, it attracts people too.
Thinking about staying the night here, actually.
I've decided not to stick around either. I'm determined to be on my own tonight. The thrill of total isolation is one of the reasons why I do part of these expeditions all on my own. My path is blocked by a young bull elephant.
Just got to sit and wait for him to finish his breakfast. It's a standoff. 2.5 ton Toyota Land Cruiser versus a 4.5 ton elephant. Place your bets.
I'd like to get past, please. Hello? Now, he obviously doesn't speak English, and I don't speak Himba, so it's not going to be any use shouting at him.
Come on. You can let me go now. I want to go.
Time to make a dash for it.
Thank you very much.
This is the Soulgrub River Valley. The track leading through it is slow and rough, but just what I've been looking for. Solitude. This is what it's all about. I am utterly alone. I think the closest person would be from me here, realistically speaking, 40 kilometers away. But that's a 2-hour drive. Average speed on these tracks about 20 kilometers an hour. And I think this is a much nicer campsite than in the river. Well, in the NAMIB River anyway. We are in a river valley. There are animals around, a lot of gemsbok, a lot of ostrich. There are line in the area, but where I'm standing now is very far from permanent water, so it's unlikely. I'm certainly not going to worry about them. After a very pleasant evening and sound sleep, I wake to find crows inbound, looking for any scraps that I might leave behind when I leave. How do they know that I'm not going to stick around? My expedition began in contemplation atop a hill in the southern part of the country. There I reflected on being a lone traveller in such a remote place. It's a kind of discomforting comfort. It's the thrill of flying alone while fighting against that inborn need we all have to huddle. It's a unique experience. If you think about it, every moment of your day, you're thinking about other people. In a work environment, you're thinking about how you're interacting with them, how your work is coinciding with theirs, business meetings, and it's always thinking about other people at the same time as your own tasks. Family, exactly the same, worrying about their welfare, thinking about their comforts, their needs. When you're on your own, that's gone, there's nothing there. That's unusual. I suppose it makes a nice change, but with it comes a level of loneliness, particularly at night. You know, if you go out into an open area and you camp, why is it you always want to find a tree? Not always because of shade, because so often you arrive there late in the afternoon, you don't need shade, and yet there's something about a tree that attracts you. It's companionship. What are the dangers? Biggest danger is car accident. You have that anyway, whether you're alone or not. I mean, climbing up into the tent on the ladder, I'm very careful. If I fall and break something, my life could be threatened if I'm in a very remote area. Who's going to find me up here? Nobody. Preparation-wise, this time I spent about 6 months preparing the trip, 4 months preparing the vehicle. Found some things that needed work on the vehicle that I didn't know about. So I'm feeling that I'm feeling confident, also a little bit nervous. Just a twinge of going into the unknown. Well, after a very pleasant night, the utter isolation continues. Continuing north to a place called Puros, and it's going to take me about 2 hours to get there. The closer I get to Puros, the rougher the track is becoming. So much so that it's becoming a multiple lane highway as travellers try to find the smoothest course. Well, this is Puros, such as it is. I was under the impression that the cocoa veld had a good dose of rain and that it was green. This is even more barren and desolate than I remember. What do they do here? Apart from look after the occasional traveller such as myself. This is the bed of the Hoarabib River, running through the town, hardly a town of Piros. When I first came here in 2002, in this crossing, and I assume it's the same one because this is the only one marked on the map, there was the wreck of a Russian light four-wheel drive truck, and it was half buried in the sand, and the story was that it had been caught in a flood, or somebody had tried to drive across when the river was flowing, and it was the vehicle was taken. Things look quite different, so I assume it's lying underneath, buried underneath the sand, never to be seen again. I'm heading due north now towards the Kunene River and the Angolan border. The further I go, the rougher the road gets. It's quite a test of endurance. This is just unbelievable. And I've looked on both my maps and they warn of this. I've let the tyre pressures down to reduce the pounding, but it hasn't made a whole lot of difference. Oh, this is exhausting. I've been on this road for 2 hours. It's unbelievable. I've got 10 hours of this to the Kunene, and then 10 hours, and well, actually, given this condition, probably 12 hours. Push on I must. You see, the other problem is, but I'm not enjoying this one bit. I've got to come back this way to Sesfontein. Not exactly the same route as I've come up to now, but from this point, I've got to come back here. There is no other route. The these corrugations are hell for roof rack feet, and I'm carrying more load than I would have generally liked. I'm not that happy with this arrangement. It's a bit heavy for me on the roof. Do I carry on, or do I carry on? 24 hours of bashing my car to pieces. Is it worth it? When one travels on one's own, you've got to weigh up you've got to weigh up the balance of risk, and the further I go north, the more remote it is, without question. Being on my own, jeopardizing the Angola part of the trip because of vehicle breakage, tyres and time. These decisions are never easy. They're never easy. So be it. Selected to camp last night, a place called Sesfontein. Sesfontein really is this kind of supply area for the Kokaveld, if you like, for this. It's got a hotel. It's a tiny little town, but a good, comfortable place to have a hot shower, and I need to do a little bit of work on the car, minor little things, and also have a good check over after yesterday's hauling roads. The spotlight came loose. I think it was me who didn't tighten it properly. I always carry a full tool set plus a Leatherman when I'm travelling. I don't carry a lot of spares with the Land Cruiser. Fan belt, fuel filters. That's it. Nothing else. I've never found anything else necessary. Other vehicles you'll need different spares because other vehicles will have specific
needs or specific things that might go wrong or more likely to go wrong. And I wrap my tools up in a cloth toolbox. You know, if you put it in a metal toolbox, eventually, with the dust, it becomes grinding paste. Well, here I am on the last part of the stretch, to the Okavango River again. Given myself a little bit of a shave, made myself look vaguely respectable, because here is when I'm going to meet my travelling companions, half of whom I've never met. One or two I know quite well, and they're going to take me into Angola. A new country for me, never been there before. This is what I call phase 2 of the trip.
Angola is a bit of an enigma. It's very wealthy through its oil and diamonds, yet most of its population live below the breadline. Its 20-year war has left it devastated, yet its economy is one of the fastest growing in the world, and it's a country that has forgotten the meaning of the word tourist. Angola is not a common destination for travellers to southern Africa, and it's a place as foreign to me as anywhere. I have just spent 12 days absolutely alone travelling north from my home in Cape Town through the NAMIB, and now poised to enter Angola for the first time. Here at the border at Ruacana, I have arranged to meet my guides and helpers.
I'm not sure if I'm quite ready. I guess I am, to be travelling with people again. Travelling on your own gives so much freedom. I made a real wrong turning this morning, cost me about an hour. I don't have to worry about people giving me a hard time about the fact that I made a mistake. But anyway, I'm meeting a group of people. I think there are 7 of them. I know 2 of them. The others never met before. But these people are going to take me into Angola, which for me is a brand new country. New culture, different language, not confident enough certainly to travel through that country on my own, and I also know that these people will be able to bring so much more to what I see, what I experience in Angola. So, here's 2 people again. I can't believe it. It's one of them.
Andrew,
How's it?
very well.
This is Jaco Richter, one of my guides for the Angolan leg.
Coincidence that you should...
Find you here, set up and ready.
No, I've just been doing a bit of filming on the way.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful.
Oh well. Not surprised that happened.
We've arranged to meet at a local camping site, and sure enough, there they all are.
How are you?
How you doing, Tonton?
Fine. Mr. Kolichi. Mr. Steer.
It's a bit of a shock to the system. I think I've become a bit too accustomed to being on my own.
Are you, sir?
These 2 have arrived in their Hilux pickup. They are a travelling advertisement as to how much junk can fit into just one Hilux.
But I got the letters, the documents, and I was Martin.
Well, here I am in my tent. I had a meeting with a group this evening. Angola is quite a country. For starters, we have to drive on the right-hand side of the road.
2 different types.
Plenty of roadblocks, complicated border crossings.
It's a bit like Botswana was 25 years ago. Twitchy. But we'll see. Been met this morning with a problem with the cruiser. The split charge battery system has failed. I'll have to bridge these batteries somehow. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. But I think I'm going to be able to.
Next thing, it's time to fill up with fuel. Angola is confusing me already, and I haven't even crossed the border yet. I've been told to fill up all fuel tanks, but I wonder why, since fuel in Angola is reportedly so cheap.
And heading now to the Namibian border, recording this on a minute camera, because I want to
get some footage around the border post, but I don't want to be seen to be doing so. But before we hit Angola, we're going to have a look at the waterfalls. This is the Ruacana Falls. I've waited many years to come here. And while it's magnificent, I've got this little knot in my gut talking about the Angolan border post. In fact, when we go across the border, I'm going to have to drive on the right side of the road, but I'm on the wrong side of the car. So I've got this knot of tension, and I'll be quite pleased when we're through the border and that's past us.
The falls measure 120 meters high and 700 meters wide at full flood. The river runs westwards and spills into the Atlantic. This is the Namibian side of the border post. It's all quite exciting, really. I have this small camera, ideal for spy stuff and clandestine filming in forbidden locations. I'm trying it out in the relative safety of this side of the border, in preparation for more risky adventures ahead. On the Angola side, I've got to be a bit more careful here.
10 to 11. So we have bets on how long it's going to take.
Maybe I shouldn't film here, but it's irresistible. Besides, it's boring waiting, and I'm here to shoot a TV program, so why not, as long as nobody sees me. Those travelling with me are a likeable bunch, some here to lend a hand, and a few in for the ride. I'll introduce them all to you around the campfire tonight. Meanwhile, all this waiting is thirsty work. 2.5 hours and we are through. Over the bridge crossing the Kunene River, I enter Angola.
Okay, the hospital's gone away on the right hand side, and they started to close the gates at the moment. So normally they were open for about a month from all the water coming down.
We cross the Kaloek Dam and the Kunene River.
We're now driving through miles and miles of baobab trees. My favourite tree.
Followed by more water and more rivers.
Well, we're in Angola. Wasn't too bad. Just under 2 hours, which I'm told is good going for any Angolan border post. We're 6 vehicles, so everyone had to be checked and rechecked and then checked again. I just got to now remember, we're on a narrow track now, so I just remember, keep to the right, pass on the right. I've just got to try to get this into my head for the next 18 days.
My immediate impression is that, without doubt, I'm in a new country. The Kalahari stretches into southern Angola, and it's unmistakable. But the trees are what truly impresses. From virtually no baobabs south of the border, they're suddenly scattered everywhere. And some of them are true giants. This one is so big that hundreds of Angolan citizens have made it their home.
I'm standing inside a baobab tree, right inside its trunk. There's a slightly sickly sweet smell of the bat droppings. There are hundreds of them in here.
And it looks like I'm not the only one who appreciates trees. I wonder if it was Fidel himself who carved this, but it was probably one of his many supporters sharpening his bayonet. Our first night stop is right amongst these beautiful baobabs. Time to meet the group
and to get to know one another.
Nosso amor é mais forte que tudo. Nosso pedido para não ficar junto.
Taking all of us into Angola are these two. Jaco Richter, on the left, fought here during the Bush War that involved South Africa. Jaco is an expert in the history of the war. On the right is Andre Lecoq, our guide working with Live the Journey. Both have lots of experience of Angola, but neither speak Portuguese. That we will leave to Gonzalez. Gonzalez speaks Portuguese, English, French, Italian, several back languages, and is learning Afrikaans. Then there is Jaco Angelini. Jaco is an old client of mine, an award-winning cinematographer and film director. He saw my previous TV series and made contact, asking if he could come along. And he brings with him his talent for film and for cooking. Then there is Martin Steer, producer of this series, and his good friend Nick Colici. And Skulk, here to lend a hand with Andre and Gonzalez. And lastly, Joe Radcliffe, a photographer and lecturer who, for the past 2 years, has been photographing Angola. They are trying to hang a light, I think. It never ceases to amaze me what some people bring camping. Well, it's early morning, first morning in Angola. Today promises to be less interesting than yesterday, purely because what we're going to do today is trying to actually make up some distance, to get up a little bit further north. Got quite a few villages to pass through, some tar road, a lot more track like we've been driving yesterday. So I'm actually not expecting anything exciting to happen today at all. But then again, that's what they said yesterday, so who knows. Some may remember yesterday I bought some Vaseline. It is not what you think. I use it for the catches on the back of the car. Squeak like mad over these rough roads, and I use Vaseline because, unlike grease, you get it on your clothes, it washes off. We enter the outskirts of Sigongo. Nice seeing everybody waving. Gotta remember, pass on the right, pass on the right.
Okay, can everybody see us? Because it's quite tricky over here. Just keep your eye on the next guy.
Within an hour or so, my right-hand drive, town driving, convoy driving skills are being tested, and soon found lacking.
I'm not 100% sure they went straight here, but... no, I've messed up. Sorry guys, you got too far ahead, I messed up.
I'm forced into learning quickly.
Back at that turning circle with Eduardo dos Santos.
Now the main purpose of driving through Zigongo is to find fuel.
Just keep coming straight back to the Nosso Super.
Past the first fuel station, there were about 24 trucks queuing outside it, waiting for fuel. So we went straight past to see if we can find fuel somewhere else. This is the main north-south road, so we probably won't be able to find fuel here. Not that we're desperate for it, but when travelling in Angola, you should get fuel whenever possible because it is just so unreliable.
I think it's the bank manager. You know, the one with the red shirt running alongside. Now that's what I call service. He will hopefully turn out to be a mobile bureau de change.
Angola is going to exchange some money for us, in local currency. So that's what I'm going to put together now, some US dollars. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh.
Yeah, keep him. That's better. Yeah.
It's a little bit unorthodox to do banking with somebody where you begin the line by saying, "Hey, buddy." Okay, what have we done so far?
We've actually come across the border. We went over the Kalahek Dam, and
Yes.
we've actually travelled all the way up to Sangongo. So we're now in Sangongo. Then we're going to move down to Mongoa and Njiva. And from Njiva we're going to turn up left northeast. Until we find a road that actually turns off towards Ibale, Kuvalai,
This is the
Kasinga.
one, yes,
This
this
is the
is
one.
the road that we're gonna
this
take.
road is going to take us 2 days. This one. It's nice travelling. It's nice off-road. Exciting. A few mud holes in that, but yeah, interesting.
Njiva is a war-weary town with reminders of its violent past all around.
This is a T-54.
No. T-54 is a tank. These are all amphibious tanks. That's why they've got the wide, flat bellies. You being able to swing it around completely because it's got no blockage. It's just the weight.
Amazing how good the bearing is after all these years, eh? Smooth.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that, eh?
After all these years, still.
It's still, and that's been burst open.
This one is burst open. This is the flash,
This is a flash suppressor.
muzzle. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. And it helps with the recoil and the balancing and all that. So what happened here?
Who
Not
knows?
too sure.
Well, we're back on the track again. For me, what's amazing about this particular trip is being a new country, being a completely new area. I have no idea what to expect from day to day. Absolutely no idea. And yet I've done a little bit of research. Surprises around every second corner.
Another surprise is Gonzalez. He really is a great asset to the expedition, in more ways than just translating.
We heard that in Angola was a big war, big fight between the Portuguese, like a tribal war. The king Selo, they decided to defend their country.
Yeah.
That's why this side is Ombaja and the other side is Humbi. All of them they was fighting to defend their country. Other side was King Hamavoko, and this side was King Shetekela, and the other side the Tokwanyama was King Mandume, and then other kings. They was just united to defend their country, so that they can't lose their country for Portuguese.
Our evening camp is far enough outside the town of Njiva to be comfortable, but as usual, the locals are intrigued with our mobile homes. They bring lively laughter and chatter, and in their own way are welcoming us to their world. Jacko has taken photographs, and the kids just love looking at themselves.
Derrubei todo o meu sonho, desisti por um momento, retirei de mim o teu olhar e a tua presença, lutei contra o coração, abandonei tudo por medo, peguei sentir por te amar.
Day
Oh,
3.
não.
Moving north. We did about 200 kilometers yesterday, and we're moving away from the urban areas and into areas far more sparsely populated, but into areas where there is a danger for us all. It's going to be odd because we're going to be traveling on roads which are completely safe as long as you stay on the roads. Walk off the roads, turn your vehicle around off the roads, and the chances of being blown up are quite severe.
Time for shave.
Getting into the Angolan groove this morning, I tune into a local radio station. Andre has told us over the radio that if the bridge ahead is down, we will have to take a major detour. A day-long detour.
I guess we're about to find out if we're going to be going through or going around. 2 days it'll cost us if we can't get through.
Okay, we're just waiting for Andrew to cross the bridge and set himself up on the other side, and then we're gonna go over the bridge itself, I think.
It looks like we're in luck. The bridge is up. Damaged, but still passable.
After a bridge gathering, now heading into a place called Matet, and I understand that the officials here can be rather nasty, so we've been asked to stay in a reasonably tight convoy and hope for the best. Okay, and I've been told on the radio, put the cameras away because there are police here, so that's what I'm going to do. It wasn't a roadblock, was it?
Yeah, if something like that happens, we leave the vehicle that they pull off,
Yes.
and we take the convoy away.
Yes.
Because if it's somebody that's got the wrong ideas,
Then
that's
everybody
corrupt,
gets
then
served.
everybody is. So they will find in a bigger convoy, they will find something wrong. So we'd rather move away and see if he can come out of it.
Okay.
So that's the best. It's going to happen in some of the small towns as well. Like Tetsumatwet last year, the actual army guys wanted to pull off the last two vehicles, but luckily the guys in front said just go, Army guys, we drive, we don't stop.
Well, it turned out to be just a regular check of the vehicle's papers, and then the policeman was more interested in the Neil Diamond he was listening to than anything else, so that was it only cost us about 5 minutes.
Not an hour later, and we've come across something sinister lying in the grass.
Should we walk? Would it be safe to walk
No,
around
you
here?
walk there, fine.
This is
Perfect,
it's
safe.
okay.
Yeah, so you're safe over here.
So you're trying to work out what this is.
It looks like it's some part of a
It's part of a missile.
missile thing, yeah.
That's one of the SAMs, most probably.
The same as big as that.
Yeah, your big SAM trees and SAM trees are quite huge pipes. I've got photographs which I'll show you guys.
But what are the chances of actually finding a part of a missile? Because missiles
That's
go
amazing.
bang, and then that's it. They're gone.
Yeah. But we must remember, this area is a very crucial area where your actual aircraft would fly in from here on sorties and things like that. So as well. So like you'd have a long I'll show you the three missiles.
This is what we were looking at. A Russian surface-to-air missile.
But if this detonated, surely the detonation would destroy everything.
The front part is gone. You could see a spot of the explosion. It might have been that as well, no? That it hit the ground and the front part went integrated. But I think it exploded. The explosive part is gone.
Well, I mean, yes, so they're that big.
Yeah, cool. What do you say about this road here, Marley? It's not too shabby.
It's actually grateful. I suppose that it's much smoother than it might have been, but boy, it's dangerous. The driving is quite tricky because people coming in opposite direction take it over. Well, not much. There are lots and lots of taxis. Taxis here are 10, 15-year-old Toyota Corollas. And they go like rally drivers on these dirt roads.
This is one of the bridges that the Benguela railway line is running underneath us. It's just been repaired by the Chinese. And these two holes, this one over here and that one that they filled up with rocks, might have been an attempt by UNITA to blow the bridge. Normally the damage caused by landmines, because it's designed for the effect to go up, you get actually very limited damage to weaken a bridge enough that it cannot be used. We're going to reach other places where they've also used landmines that try to get it underneath on top of the pillars. This bridge unfortunately has just got the two ends and no pillars in between, so they had to try and do it from the top. And yeah, not a successful attempt.
It's a seriously peculiar feeling driving along here and seeing these markings saying that if you stay on the road you're 100% safe, but if you veer off it you're gonna die or have your leg blown off. Apparently over 8 million landmines still lie buried in Angola.
For the past 20 years, Angola has been at war, to begin with outsiders and then with itself. In a forest north of the town of Njiva, I have come across a gruesome scene, one of the very last casualties of the war.
What happened here, Gonzalez?
What happened here was Eugenio, the owner of this vehicle, was coming from Techamutet to Kunene to Njiva. When he came here with his people on the vehicle, get a mine. Then when he traveled this mine, it was a big accident, as we know. And all of them, they are died here. Only the driver who survived. That's why they took those dead body and buried them all there on this side.
Yeah.
And it was happened on 8 August 2004.
Okay, and how many people?
The people, I don't know, they don't know honestly, but they are saying it was many because the car was full of people. But they remember that who survived on that car was only the driver.
Yeah. And ask him, has the landmine clearance teams been through this area already or not yet?
Ele estava a perguntar se nesta área aqui.
Incredible what a mine can do to a double cab.
Limparam esta área ou ainda continuam?
Desde que foi quando havia passado da desminagem.
Sim.
Havia passado da desminagem. É só ali ao chão que tem uma área aqui que não encontraram uma ponte.
Strong to send this mining company here to dismine this place, and he's saying it's not very clean, but from there was one of the last accident on this place, and from 2004.
My camera is attracting a bit too much attention, so I leave the roadside with Yaku to view the memorial. It turns out to be an unmarked slab of concrete, still surrounded no doubt with landmines. We tread very carefully.
Are there any markings on the concrete itself?
No, unfortunately not. It's totally clear. There's no markings. If it was not for the information that the guy on the motorbike gave us, we would not have known who was buried over here. It's a pity. Some of the other sites that we hopefully will find, there is markings with dates and an idea of what has happened.
Choosing a spot very carefully, Andre selects a campsite deep in these splendid forests that have become our friends over the past few days. We are heading for Kasinga, the site of one of the war's most gruesome atrocities. The going is slow, and signs of the heavy summer rains are evident everywhere.
I think this is easy.
Yeah.
We can just go through.
Yeah, we can
And
just
I
go.
think,
Got to check and see how you get around this. Looks like quite a tricky obstacle. It's almost like a day's driving on a four-wheel drive obstacle. Oh, I've come off the main track here. I think this is it down here.
So it's sad. I mean, this beautiful, exquisite forest is absolute no-go area. So I've been told if you walk on fresh footprints and drive on fresh car tracks, you're fine. This is a well-used path. Fine in terms of treading on anything sinister that's going to take my limbs off. It's amazing. Gee, I love this kind of travel.
Down this road, on an autumn day in 1978, the soldiers came. Nobody lives here now. This is Kasinga. The day after the soldiers came, 624 people lay dead, 611 civilian. Over 30 years on, those who have done the killing, those who fought the propaganda war on both sides, reflect on what war does to a nation. There are no winners because surely the enemy is war itself. Kasinga will be rebuilt, although some say it should remain a memorial. Its martyrdom stands upon hundreds of martyrdoms in Angola, Namibia, Botswana, all of southern Africa.
Kasinga happened on the 4th of May 1978, and the impression which the South African Defence Force had was that this was a huge training base for the Swapo people of Namibia. They had them on aerial shots, and especially on the soccer field they could actually see the marching grounds and where the training might or could have happened.
Right.
And then it was decided to attack Kasinga, and it took them more than a year to plan the whole attack under charge of Colonel Jan Breitenbach. They came, they dropped the parachuters in here, and they killed over 608 people, 150 officers, which is lying in the mass graves. So it was quite a big, but it was a quick operation.
But now there's another side. There's a story that Swapo said that this wasn't a training camp at all. Well, so the other side was that it was civilians that were killed.
That's right, and I think that's the interesting side of things, especially if you look at the photographs, is that Swapo said that what happened was that this was a refugee camp for women and children.
Oh, right.
So when the massacre happened, there wasn't so many troops around anymore, and that they actually killed the women and the children.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? It's obviously a bus.
Yeah, this is one of those stories about Kasinga that I don't know if anybody will ever know what really happened. It's believed that 116 children. One side of the story is that they were kidnapped out of Ovambo, and another side of the story is that they actually left Overland because they felt safer this side. So this is very much a crucial part of Kasinga itself. Saying that it was a civilian town, where 116 children were transported up here from Overland in this bus, and yeah, what happened to them we'll never know. But if they were really kidnapped and if they left out of their own free will. Oh wait. Yeah, that's so long ago, but it's a little bit short for AK-47.
Kasinga is not a very nice place. The memories hang in the air, and as for me, I'm glad to see it behind us. The trouble is, the area is strewn with impressions of war. We are heading further north now, to what Jaco has called the Road of Death. I can't wait. Thank you so much for watching. These videos are made possible by contributions from Patreons. Join our Patreon family now.